Well, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today on these important issues facing the seasonal and perishable produce industry in Georgia and throughout our country. For Ambassador Lighthizer, Secretary Perdue, Secretary Ross, thank you for having me today to share my views and concerns on behalf of our Georgia's agricultural industry, which is so important to us here. Before I begin my testimony, I want to commend the efforts of the administration in coming together to achieve a momentous trade deal, the USMCA. There is no denying that its historic trade deal will increase our global competitiveness, strengthen our economy, and support our farmers. I'm grateful for these efforts and the outcome. I know that Georgians will appreciate the effects of this agreement on our economy and appreciate the President and his administration for working hard to get America a better deal. Over the last few months, we have seen our nation's farmers, growers, and producers struggle through the economic downturn wrought by the coronavirus pandemic. At the federal level, it has been a priority of mine to safeguard the livelihoods of Georgia's hardworking farmers who have never stopped working to put food on the tables of families across the country. And this would include my work with the administration to ensure that the H-2A workforce many of our Georgia growers depend on was not unnecessarily reduced. Unfortunately, this pandemic has been unforgiving, but I will continue to work with my colleagues in the Georgia delegation to make sure our farmers, growers, and producers are taken care of. Unfortunately, however, Georgia's growers and producers of seasonal and perishable goods continue to face the threat of outside of the coronavirus. And that threat must be highlighted and addressed at the federal level, which is why I'm glad I'm here today. Over the past several years, the agricultural market for seasonal and perishable goods has seen a growing saturation of Mexican products as a result of that country's unfair trade practices. It is my hope that this hearing is the administration's first step in addressing this unfair trade dynamic. As you may know, Mexico's increased market share of produce and perishable goods at record low prices in the United States has severely and negatively impacted the Southeast seasonal and perishable produce farmers, especially here in Georgia. To provide an example of one commodity that is disastrously struck by Mexico's practice, Mexico's share of the U.S. blueberry market has gone up by 2,111% over the last 10 years. I didn't make a mistake there. That's 2,000% in 10 years. Such an increase obviously shuts our growers of one of Georgia's top commodities, blueberries, and also deprives Georgia and the country of the benefits of a thriving American majority blueberry market could have on my state's economy and the nation's economy as a whole. Why has Mexico attained such a massive stake in our produce market? Because the government of Mexico began to subsidize the development of Mexico's produce industry. These subsidies have operated to distort trade and, coupled with Mexico's unfair pricing practices, have resulted in Mexico obtaining an undeniable advantage in the U.S. market. This has continued to happen over the last decade, and the expense has been my farmers here in Georgia and across the Southeast. While the USMCA will make great advancements in trade for many industries across the country, recent studies indicate that even with full implementation, Georgia stands to lose nearly $1 billion in annual economic output to the grower industry. In the same study, it shows that the industry could lose over 8,000 jobs. It goes without saying what this could mean to many of the families in my state and those that I represent whose paycheck depends on receive from growing and producing. The outlook is grim, and these consequences would be devastating. For many growers, the consequences of continuing to allow Mexico to get away with trade distorting practices will be earth-shattering. In Georgia, we are lucky to have a growing economy made of many smaller growers that produce a diverse portfolio of commodities. For these smaller growers, it's up to us, the federal officials in the legislative and executive branch, to work together to make sure these voices are heard and their needs are met. I'm committed to finding a solution to this issue and hope that the USDR, USDA, and Department of Commerce will work with my office to ensure Georgia farmers, growers, and producers will no longer be negatively impacted by Mexico's unfair trade practices, and that we can regain control of the U.S. seasonal and perishable good markets, which is such a vital interest in the state of Georgia. I'd like to echo the testimony of Georgia stakeholders in requesting that Section 301 investigation be undertaken so that the executive branch can wield its full power in addressing Mexico's trade practices, including its use of the subsidy programs. I stand ready to support such an investigation in any way I can. With the country in the early months of the USMCA implementation, I'm glad to see that the USTR is continuing its conversation with Georgia farmers, and I'm hopeful we can come together and find a solution that the Georgia growers face to this needless economic damage. Thanks again for hearing me today, and thank you more importantly for hearing the concerns of our growers and their supporters as we look forward to finding a solution for this.